Morning, the FDA now says 1 in 5 milk samples nationwide have tested positive for traces of bird flu. Scientists say the risk to the public is still low and milk on the shelves safe to drink. That's because of the pasteurization process. The CDC says only one human case from a person exposed to infected cows has been linked to this outbreak.
Here to talk a little bit more about the outbreak and our risks is our 9 News medical expert, Dr. Pyle Coley. Dr. Coley, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
For people who aren't familiar with it, what is the bird flu, and do we need to start worrying about this?
Oh, you know, after COVID, it seems like there's just one thing after another. But the good news here is the bird flu has been around for a decade. So it's an influenza avian virus. It's H5N1. So it's a particularly pathogenic strain, but it usually only infects birds. Now, this is the first time we're seeing it in cattle, and that's what's really got our alarm bells up. And as we just heard, the first case from a cow to a human, that has not happened before. So the reason it has our attention is because we're thinking it's evolving. But thankfully, it hasn't evolved yet to the point where it's spreading from human to human. We don't think it's going to be able to efficiently spread between humans.
So can we get this in milk and eggs?
So, you know, if the milk is pasteurized, as you said, it actually inactivates the virus. So what we found is genetic fragments from, the virus in the milk, because if the cow is infected and then the cow kind of puts those fragments into the milk, you shouldn't be able to get it if it's pasteurized. But if it's raw milk or raw cheese, you certainly can get it. And I want to talk a little bit about poultry and eggs as well, because as we talked about, it lives in birds. And so if you eat undercooked chicken or you have undercooked eggs, you can also potentially get it. So what the CDC is recommending is you heat up your eggs and your poultry to at least 165 degrees so that it's really nice and hot. It inactivates the virus.
What are the details of how this person got it? And I know you said it doesn't look like it spreads to humans right now, but what would that look like?
Yeah, so it's still a little bit up in the air how they got it. We think it's like, any kind of contact with an infected animal or an infected animal's secretions, or potentially touching a surface that has been contaminated and then touching your eyes. So for example, if you had a piece of meat that was infected and then touched it on a countertop and then rubbed your face, that potentially could be a mechanism of transmission. But in this particular case, we think it's just close contact with the cows. In fact, in 2022, there was a person in Colorado who got it from a bird as well, and it was thought he handles the birds and he was, sacrificing them, so that's how he ended up getting it. But human-to-human transmission has not readily occurred, which is a good thing. And it's not making the cows super sick either, so it's a pretty mild infection even in the cattle.
So going back to these eggs, can you not have sunny side up eggs right now? You've got to like scramble them up or over hard or something like that?
If you're worried. Now the FDA is saying they're not so worried about the eggs, but obviously, and here in Colorado, we haven't actually had, our cattle get infected, but birds get it a lot. So if you want to be extra cautious, I would say you cook the yolks of the eggs and maybe have scrambled eggs with cheese or something like that instead. And then, of course, like I said, stay away from those raw cheeses because that can be really tempting.
You come to my house, I'll burn those eggs
Good.
easily. Really quickly, what are symptoms of what this looks like?
So thankfully, the individual who got it, he had really mild conjunctivitis, like pink eye, and that's it. But you can potentially have a range of symptoms. It looks like the flu, but it can be very mild flu, or it can be all the way to multi-organ failure. So we should certainly keep our guard up, try to take these precautions when it comes to our food, our poultry, and our milk. But in my mind, it's not a super big threat to humans yet. And, it's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Coley, very interesting. Thank you so much. And you can find all of Dr. Coley's appearances at 9news.com/Dr. Coley.